Okay, so my apologies for the Zoom thing. You're also going to have to use the hand raise feature because I don't have a second monitor right now, so I might not see you unless you do the hand raise feature. Okay, so we're up to Mishlei 15:18. I don't think this is connected with the previous one. If it is connected, it's probably just by association because the previous pasuk we did was Tov Aruchas Yarak Va'avasham Mishor Avos V'Sinabo. So that's kind of talking about like personal animosity. And our pasuk here is talking about strife, as we'll see. Okay, so ish chema yagare madon ve'erech apaim yashkit riv. Who would like to try to translate that? Yeah, go ahead, Isaac.
A hot-tempered person.
Okay, good. A hot-tempered. I like that translation because it gets chema, which involves heat, even though it's anger. Yeah,
Yeah. Um, that's what made me want to decide to
yeah,
try to translate. Is Igara like cause?
yeah. So yagare.
Was
There you go. Here's yagare.
oh, stir. Okay, then.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay,
stirs
then.
up.
Conflict.
Yep, conflict is good. Oops, sorry, hold on a second here. Conflict. We'll quibble about Madon versus Reeve later on. Okay. The Erech Apayim.
And slow to anger, which I would hyphenate the words
Slow to anger.
because it seems like that's the noun. Will quiet a quarrel.
Yeah, we'll quiet quarrel. Okay, that's good. Okay, so yeah, a hot-tempered person stirs up conflict and slow to anger. I'm going to say but slow to anger because I think it's opposites. But slow to anger will quiet quarrel. All right, so Metzudas ציון says, Yigara is miloshin tagar v'chirchur kmo al tisgar ba milchama. So I think incite is probably I don't know if incite and stirs up are the same thing, but I like the word incite here. And then madon miloshin din umariva. So madon is an expression of yeah. So that's a good question here. Do you think he's saying something other than quarrel? I feel like din and mariva. His use of the word din indicates that he's doing something different.
Are you saying that it's like a civil quarrel? I mean, um,
Oops, sorry.
dispute.
Yeah, dispute. Yeah, I feel like that's the implication here. So quarrel or like uh disagreement. Okay, maybe. Yeah, I'm trying to think here. Yeah, you know what? Okay. I actually
Yeah,
I
it's
feel like
for modern.
yeah.
Not you added it to Reeve. It's for
Oh,
modern.
oh, okay. That's a good point. All right. So quarrel. Yeah. So I think conflict does work then. Yeah. All right. That works then. Okay. Sadigon says Yagara is Yorir, which I do think stirs up is what he means there. Okay, and then we're doing our new trick with the Targum Ksuvim. So here's the prompt I'm currently working with for ChatGPT. Please translate the following Aramaic words into Hebrew and English, preserving grammatical nuances. Present each word in this format. Aramaic word, English translation, Hebrew translation. So Gavra is man or ish. Chemtana is wrathful or angry. Charon af or koes. Megara is incite or provoke. Tigra is quarrel or dispute. Negid is to restrain or hold back. So that one is different, right? Negid and rucha is spirit or temperament. I think it also means anger, which in this case I think it does mean anger. Mad'ech is to quiet or pacify. And then charta is strife or agitation. So what I would say here is, um, let's just do this here. So a wrathful man incites quarrel, but one who restrains his anger, I think is how we would say it, quiets strife. Okay, so then we got, I don't have my usual translations here, most of them. So the Koran says, a wrathful man stirs up strife, but he who is slow to anger appeases strife. Okay, weird that it uses the same word for both of them. I never like that translation style. JPS says, a hot-tempered man provokes a quarrel, a patient man calms strife. And then Alter says, a hot-tempered man stirs up strife, but a patient man quiets quarrel. So what you see from here is that everyone is really inserting man, right? So a hot-tempered person stirs up quarrel, but a person who is slow to anger will quiet quarrel. And I think that's shot. Yeah. Okay, so what are the questions here?
It's Pasha.
Pasha. Okay, so this seems obvious, right? anyone who knows a short-tempered person will see that they incite conflict, right? Or stir up, right? Yeah. I mean, and then likewise, I guess maybe the second half is not as obvious, but certainly the first half is obvious. Okay, what else?
What's an ish chema?
Yeah. What is, oops, sorry. Yeah, so let's break that down to two. What is chema? And then what is an ish chema? Right? Like how, what is the relationship between the person and the chema such that we characterize him that way? Like is it due to the frequency, the intensity, the primacy in his interactions, etc. Right? So how does it qualify him? Okay.
How do they do? How does the Shema Yagar the Modern and how is the Erchapayim Yashkit Reef?
Yeah, okay. So let's also get some definition questions first. So what is the difference between Madon and Reeve? Okay, if such a difference exists. Okay, and then how does the Ish Chema Yigare Madon? And then how does the Ish Erech Apayim Yashkit Reeve? I also feel like we need to ask what is meant by Yashkit Reeve, right? Like, is it to, eliminate, to lower, like reduce, to I don't know, to make actual peace, which I guess is part of the question that Moshe was asking is how is he doing it? But I do think it needs to be asked separately. Yeah. Okay, what else?
Is this pasuk, is this like one straight chain or are these two different things? Because with the Erech HaPayim, it seems like there's already a reeve present. And with the Ish Chema, it doesn't seem necessary that the reeve is, or that
Okay, so
the
that's a good
Madon is
question.
already present.
Okay, so what is the decision-making scenario? And then are we talking about the same scenario in each half? Okay, as most Mishlei pasukim do, or does Yigare Madon imply that there was no Madon at all, and Yashkit Reeve imply that the Reeve already existed? Okay, in which case we'll be talking about two different scenarios. Yeah. I feel like the basic question still could yield insight, which is how are these two halves opposites? Okay, so in other words, like, why is the opposite I guess why is Erech HaPayim the opposite of Ish, sorry, of Chema, right? Why not what do you call someone who doesn't get angry at all? I feel like there's a term for that in Hebrew. Why not contrast chema with not getting angry at all? Which I guess, by the way, I guess
yeah.
there's a
I think there's
question we didn't ask, which is what is Erech HaPayim, right? And then how is this different? I guess what is implied by Erech, as opposed to no off.
I think the term in Hebrew, I think of a term in modern Hebrew, I think it's like savlan. But I
Yeah,
think
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was wondering what it is in if Shlomo were to talk about it. I feel like I'm not familiar with a Mishlei term, a Mishlei archetype that talks about that. But yeah, Savlan is definitely rabbinic Hebrew also.
Did we also ask what the subject of the pasuk is?
No, we did not. That's a good question, right? So that's a good question in the sense that like you could look at this and see, well, it's anger, but like maybe it's not anger, maybe it's about peacemaking, maybe it's about something else. So what is the subject of this pasuk? And then I think we should ask also who is the intended audience. And I think here you can ask like, is this talking to the the would-be inciter / quieter, or to the bystander or like victim? Meaning maybe this is telling you how to deal with an ish chema versus an erech hapaim, or how to be an erech hapaim and not an ish chema. And then obviously what's the practical application? Okay, so let me do what yeah, what was that?
Why does the Ish Kema do this? Is this like by choice, like he's looking to be a Ramadan, or he just can't help himself?
Yeah, that's a good
other
question
persons?
also. So let's ask that on we'll ask it on both, even though I do think it's stronger on the Ish Chema. So what causes the Ish Chema to be the way he is? And then to a lesser extent, what causes the Erech Hapaim to be the way he is? I mean, presumably it's Mishlei, but we'll ask it anyway. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and paste the questions into the chat, which I don't usually do, but since we're all on Zoom, then it might be handy here. Okay, so let's get this, and then 9 through the end, changing all the numbers for neuroses reasons. 12, 13, 14. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Okay. So who wants to take a stab at this? I deliberately used a violent metaphor.
Oh, can I ask one more question also?
Yeah.
When we say Yashkit Reeve, does that mean that he actually like figures it, like solves the problem, or he just like makes it quieter and like
Right.
quells it in some way that doesn't actually solve
Yeah,
it?
so that's what I'm including in what is meant by Yashkit Reeve. Is it to eliminate, to reduce, to make actual peace? Yeah.
Okay, I missed that. Yeah.
Yeah, Yashkit is a very to me, Yashkit implies, that it still is there, it's just quiet now, but maybe that's just the verb that we use. Yeah, Isaac?
I would just say what I think is the obvious idea.
Sure.
I think, yeah. So, I think it's talking about two extremes of people, of like how people can handle conflict. You got the first half person is kind of stirring up conflict where there isn't really one there. Because of his temperament, not because there was like a conflict already there. And then contrast that with the person who, there's a real reason why there is a conflict, but he isn't making it like quieter, like making it less intense.
Okay. So there, the Paim, even when confronted with a conflict, will diminish its intensity by his temperament. Yeah, okay. So now to develop the basic idea, the question is why, or how does what causes this, and how does it work? Yeah. Yeah, I think part of the question, whoever asked the question about the what causes the Ish Chema to be the way he is, I would add to that, like, generally speaking, conflict is something that is painful or not enjoyable. So people who live amid conflict, experience frustration, right? So the question is like, does he not realize this? Does he like the conflict? You know, does he not? Does he? I guess. Does he feel like he's gaining something in exchange? You know, so this is not just like a unprompted psychologizing question. The question is like I often, you know, kind of like people who, let's say, like you know, when you see people, there's certain people who like stir up drama wherever they are, and you know, and the question is that I always have is like, you know, they must be getting something out of this because it can't be pleasant to always be like worrying about people like talking badly about you or backstabbing you or whatever. But like maybe they just don't even realize that they're the ones who are stirring this up. Yeah, so how does this work? How can we basically how can we advance this idea from the basic observation to the more Chiddush oriented thing? Yeah, Isaac? Unless Isaac has been hijacked by someone. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I thought I unmuted, but I didn't. I don't think the Ish Thema thinks that he's making the conflict. I think he thinks that the person that it's really that someone else is doing something that's making the conflict, and he's just, you know, he's responding to it. He's not gonna like not respond when someone's doing something bad to him, you know.
Right.
Um,
Okay, so I think that's probably reasonable. The Ish Chema probably doesn't think that he's causing the conflict, but you know, ascribes the cause to someone else and sees himself as just reacting. Okay, so that's a start of an answer. Just to point out here, I do think that there's like a fork in the road. Like Isaac took the stance that because this is depicting extremes, then the second half is talking about a case where even when there is a conflict, then he can quell it. I think the other road to take here is that both halves are talking about a situation where someone does something that is provocative or that would warrant anger, and then there are people who will stoke, like who will add fuel to the fire, and then there are people who will, you know, add water to the fire. I don't know about water because Erech Apayim might imply that he hasn't gotten rid of the anger altogether. But you know, I think that's the other approach to take. You know, that both are talking about a case where there is conflict. Yeah. Okay. Anyone have any other ideas? We don't have to develop Isaac's idea all in one shot now. Like we could just get a bunch of ideas out onto the table. Yeah, David?
I have two different things I don't think come together as one idea.
Okay.
But I think that for one, I think that there are just like an ish chema. I mean, I think it's also like this is who he is. Like it's an ish chema, not just like someone who gets mad. I think that there are certain people that just happen to find like ways to just get annoyed with everything. I think there's like certain personalities, whether it's like based on prior, like how they were raised or different psychological things. But I think that there's like, just everything is annoying and everything is reason to get mad. I think on the flip side, if people just like don't take things as seriously and just like, or not necessarily even that, but just like don't find the reason to be angry in everything that happens. And so from there, I mean, I think that's like one half of thinking. And then the other half, which I don't think makes it like one continuous idea necessarily, is that you have a choice on how you interpret these different things. I think each schema kind of just always falls back into stirring up madon, and Erech Apayim just naturally falls into quieting things, maybe in times where it's not necessarily appropriate. But I think that you do have the ability to not be either of these two personality extremes. And I think just as far as decision making, that's a choice.
Yeah. So to react in each way. So the thing I wanted to just point about your first observation here is that I'm not convinced that the opposite of the Ishchema as you described him is what you were describing was a personality that is the opposite, which is that he does not get annoyed by things. I don't know if I would call that Erech Apayim. I mean, maybe if we posit a definition of Erech Apayim. I mean, I'm working with the premise here based on another pasuk that I think we've done. Let me just see where it was. Erech apayim. And it's possible that there could be different multiple definitions here.
I think we did one last year.
Yeah, that's
Yud Zion, I think it was.
yeah, okay. Let's see here. Yud Daled Erech apayim. I think this is the one I was thinking of, 1429. I think. Yeah, let me just see this here. There's a Rביnu Yona on one of these. Yeah. So this is Erech 1429. Erech Paim Rav Tavuna Uktar Ruach Merim Iveles. One who's slow to anger, and then it doesn't really state what word in between there, shows or has great understanding, but an impatient person selects or elevates foolishness. So Rביnu Yona says, Misha Moshe Bakasov Eno Nokim Be'ez Chamaso Ad Shetis Yashiv Da'ato V'Yachshav Kadas Malasos. So someone who controls his anger and doesn't take revenge at the time of his wrath until after he's settled his mind and thinks what is proper to do. Min Hamid Hazos Magia Lios Ravtavuna. So from that midah you'll come to be to have great understanding. And I think that's one. Yeah. So in other words, there's two basic interpretations of Erech Apayim. One is slow to anger, which means that you get angry, but you don't act on it until after a delay. The other is that it takes a lot to get you angry. And to me, it's more mashma. Slow to anger really means slow to act on your anger. And I'm getting that from being Yona. You don't have to say it that way. But either way, my point is that I don't know if either of those, I mean, you could say, I guess, that the it's hard to get them angry fits into what David's first interpretation is. But yeah, maybe I'm just biased by my preference. Yeah, Moshe?
Yeah, I was going to offer a different idea.
Sure.
I think something that's common that I've seen from a lot of people is there are certain people that preach that you're supposed to be very dogmatic and passionate about, let's say, certain topics. And then what they do is they paint dichotomies between people. And we'll say that there are good people in society, and there's people that don't believe my dogma, and they're all evil people. And so people like that and end up just generating more conflict that doesn't have to exist. Whereas people who are just, you can say, slow to anger, or who, not that they're disinterested in topics, but that they can be more unbiased. So they can look at it, I guess, more objectively. And those kinds of people normally either avoid conflict or can reduce conflict, because if you're trying to get very passionate about something and the person is just responding apathetically, without really getting themselves involved, less likely that even someone hot-tempered is going to have a reaction where they're going to categorize the person they're speaking to as an evil person, or someone who doesn't buy into the one true dogma.
Right. Okay. So I understand the first person more than the second person. So let me start with that. Is that and I'm going to call it. I'm not going to say that this is yet. I'm not yet prepared to say that this is the definition of ish chema, but one species of ish chema, tends to classify all people into two categories. Okay, like I'm going to just say with me or against me, or good and bad. I mean, I'm reminded of, I don't know how many of you have read The Coddling of the American Mind by Jonathan Haidt and Greg Lukianoff, but they diagnose society basically like from the 2010s and on they say that there's basically like three problems that pervade the society, and they call them the three great untruths. And I think the third great untruth is that wait, let me just see if they say it really well. Let me just see if I can find it really quickly. Coddling of the American Mind, three great untruths. Three great untruths are: what doesn't kill you makes you weaker. Okay, meaning that's the belief that having your feelings hurt is actual harm. Two is always trust your feelings, and then three, life is a battle between good people and evil people. And so that's like the I think that's like what Ishmadon does, right? So he classifies all people into two categories, with me or against me. And then this necessarily leads to strife because he's making everyone into a potential opponent, and that that can like not only I guess accentuate conflicts that do exist in reality, but can also generate conflicts that wouldn't have been there, wouldn't have arisen without that imposed dichotomy. Okay, so that's the ish chema, and then the erech apayim. You want to say it again?
Yeah, so I was trying to say someone who tries to remain unbiased by even controversial topics, because when they act almost like a moderator conversation, it makes it less likely that conflicts get out of hand or that people take them personally. And I think it's a framework of viewing the conflict as something outside of the people rather than viewing it as a personal thing. Like there's an ish chema, and he's like identifying himself with the conflict, whereas the Erech Paim is viewing the Reeve as separate from him.
Right. Okay, so the way such a person operates, I guess, like lends itself, let's say, lends itself to I'm going to call it peacemaking, in the sense, in the sense that he's trying to facilitate communication with both sides, and is not, and is acting as a neutral party. So like his very presence will quell the conflict. Yeah, Ariel?
Yeah, I had another approach, but I'm not sure if you're ready for it yet.
Yeah, good question. Let me just think about this a little bit more here. So the subject of this is how do you characterize the subject of
Yeah. I'm
yeah,
trying to say like there's the two different frameworks to how to view conflict. I mean, the general framework that people view it is it's people that are just different, and the only way, whatever, they're just always going to be different. So you're going to have two sides in life, and so the Ish Chema is just going to get angry with anyone who's not on his side. Whereas the Erech HaPayim doesn't view conflicts like that. He views
right.
them as an ideological thing. Some people conform to believe certain ideas. Some people believe other ideas. It doesn't need to be a fight.
Okay, right. So to the Ishchema, there are two kinds of people. To the Erech HaPayim, there is only, we're all the same kind of person, and the only differences are in ideas which can be discussed. Right. Yeah, that's an interesting thing. Yeah. Okay. Let's table that for now. I think that's a good idea. Let's go to Ariel.
Right. So I think it's a little half baked, but I want to say that at least coming from the second half of the pasuk,
Yeah.
like slow to anger, means that like he is still gonna get to the point of anger. Like
Right.
slow to anger means he's gonna get there. Like
Right.
if he's not angry, he would have just said, "Oh, a person is not angry," whatever he's
Right.
gonna say. But maybe you could say it just means that like he's methodical about how he's angry. Like
Okay.
he's conscious of it, and he's able to be smart about it in the sense of like how he's going to express it. As opposed to like maybe the first half of the pasuk, it's more like he doesn't have the he doesn't recognize that his anger is going to cause an issue because he's not aware of this
Okay.
fact that it could it's just hurting everyone else and it's hurting him by
Okay.
creating conflict.
I like that. I'm gonna posit something here just to explain it. So this is so the question is like, why not? So what I want to say here is that the Ish Chema identifies with his anger. Okay. Which fits the language of Ish Chema. Whereas the Erech HaPayim views his anger as something within him and related to him, but about which he can like, you know, make decisions, you know. I know which passage Isaac is thinking of in A Gift of Fire. But you know, so I think I think that is a thing that happens if you look back at times when you've gotten angry, is that the anger I mean, that people use the expression you're seeing red, you know, like you are seeing things through the haze of your anger, as opposed to viewing the anger as, let's say, like a wild animal that is growling, that is on a leash that you're holding, that you can like choose to interact with in a certain way. But if you're already at that point, then you're no longer in your emotions. You have enough distance from your emotions to be able to like think about how to manage them. Yeah. What do you think about that, Ariel? Is that true to your idea, or is that a different idea?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's in line. That's in
Yeah.
line, definitely.
Yeah. Okay, that's really good. So then the question is how you know, how can, you know, let's say like if we're prone to being an ish chema, um, how do we distance ourselves from our anger practically? And our pasuk might not be telling us how to do that, but in order to implement the pasuk, then you would think that we do need to do that. So how can we do that?
I have a thought. I mean, toward the psychological, I think that the Ish came out, part of why he stays in this anger is
Yeah.
that being angry is like in a way justifying, or having bad externals around him justifies the fact that he was wronged. And I think recognizing that that's not necessarily true and that you're better off not keeping yourself in that victim state, you can shift yourself over toward being more of an erech apayim. Not to say that you're not going to be angry, but at the very least you can recognize that you're not necessarily, you're prone to falling into justifying your anger by making things worse.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I think you're correct conceptually. I'm just like, can you just answer one more time? Like, in other words, the guy is angry and he feels like he's in the right, you know, and so let's say he recognizes what you're saying, which is that it's kind of a self-perpetuating thing where him getting angry about it makes him feel he's even more justified. So explain to me one more time how that enables him to get out of it.
I was thinking just simply the recognition that that's what he's doing.
Okay. The
He can see from
recognition
that that's what's happening.
that that's what he's doing might help him get out of it. Yeah. Okay. Ariel, you wanted to answer?
Yeah. I want to say that, you know, that I think, and I'm getting this from a book that I read called
Yeah.
Crucial Conversations.
Yeah.
And in that book, he talks about how, like, you know, when you get into like a debate, it can be really heated, but like something that he, you know, okay, well, the first thing you have to do is you have to like just learn about these things. That's number one. Like that's just one. But once you're aware of it, you have to ask yourself in the moment, like, what is the goal of what I'm trying to accomplish here? Like if the goal is to get to a certain destination, like, is this the best approach to engage in this, you know, anger?
Yeah.
So if you are aware of the goal, then like you'll be able to find other means to get to your destination.
Right. Okay, that's good. Is really the best way to achieve that goal, or whether there are other options. Yeah, that's a helpful three-step paradigm, right? So being aware of it is the first thing, and I think we're all going to have to say that no matter what answer we give to this question. You know, that's also the first step of David's answer. Second is asking what your goal is, you know, which is a very important question. In other words, like is my goal to actually change the situation? Is it to change the person's mind? Is it to complain? You know, is it to like indulge my victimhood, you know, and then ask if there are other options, and then explore those other options. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I mean, I think the general answer, I just want to say, is the general answer is going to have to involve, there are many techniques, but um but all of them will involve um I don't know how to say this. I mean, maybe this is just, maybe you're going to say this is not even answering the question. Um, like pausing and taking a step back from the anger, you know? So meaning I think everything is going to have to involve at least a two-step process of like stopping and then getting you outside of that. So let's say, for example, like, knowing this pasuk can help you to just identify, okay, I'm experiencing anger and there are two things to do about it. And then taking a step back could either be like David is saying about like recognizing what am I trying to do? How am I screwing up with my mind? Rubinu Yona's answer in that other pasuk I quoted is this going to cause me to do something stupid? Ariel's answer involves like also practically thinking about it. So I feel like any answer we find is going to end up falling into one of those two steps. Okay, let's do the Matsuda's David just to get started here. Unless anyone else has any ideas. All right, I'm
I
just
had
gonna go on.
one other thing.
Sure, go ahead.
I think it relates. Can you go back down to what Isaac said because I think it related to that.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that maybe a takeaway you could have from that is if you're a third party, to recognize that because there are people in these two extremes, they will blur what is actually happening and make it seem like it's one of those two opposite ends. But if something's like a moderate problem, then each might make it seem like it's a huge deal. The Erech might make it seem like it's really not such a big deal. And you have to be conscious that these people might be presenting something as not as big a deal, or as either too big a deal or not as big a deal as what it actually is.
Okay, so if you're a third party, then you need to be aware of how each of these other two guys is filtering the objective issue through their subjective, manner of relating to conflict. Right. Yeah, meaning like neither is responding to the thing as it is. Right. Okay. Yeah, that's a good observation also. Okay, so let's look at Metzudas David. So he says, Ish chema mishadarcho lichos yegare meriva im bnei adam aval hamarichach ve'eno memaher lichos yashkit b'zeh es hamariva. So someone whose way, whose habit is to get angry. And now I don't know if that means to feel anger or to express anger. Yegare meriva im bnei adam will incite conflict or strife with people. Aval hamarichach, the one who extends his anger. So that I think shows that this is talking about acting angry. Ve'eno mamaher lichos, and does not hasten to rage. Yashkit bazeh es hamariva will quiet the mariva. Yeah. So what is he saying? Again, very, very classic Matsudas stuff. It's sticking very, very close to the shot, to the point where it's hard to tell whether he's saying an idea or just stating the facts here. So the question is, what do we get from this?
What does it mean to be Marikov?
Yeah, so what I'm saying to be Marichov is like Rubén Yona said in the last thing I read, which is that he is angry inside, but he's delaying acting on his anger. In fact, you know what? Let's just go straight to the Rubén Yona. I bet he's going to say something similar here. So Rubén Yona says, and we can always go back to Matsudas David. Ish chemel yigare madan ve'erchapayim yachki brief kasher tavakesh adam lahafrid bein atzumim. Okay, well, this is already different. When a person seeks to separate between the powerful, okay, I assume that means like two people who are powerful and going to be in conflict. Lo tavakesh ish chema. You should not look for an ish chema. Ki kasher yiktzov al inyane atmo. Because when you get angry about your own affairs, or sorry, when he gets angry about his own affairs, Kain yiktof vis aber al riv lo lo, then he'll also get angry and enraged about a conflict that does not belong to him. I think there's a series of pasukim in Mishlei chapter 26 about people who get angry over conflicts that are not theirs. I mean, I think the one that I'm thinking of is actually I'll just look it up here with the dog. Machzik b'ozne kelev over misaber al riv lo lo. Like one who grabs the ears of a dog is one who becomes enraged over a quarrel that doesn't belong to him, you know? So I'm not a dog person, but I can imagine you just go up to a random dog and just grab its ears, it's going to get angry at you. So that's what happens with ish madon. Okay, so going back, so he's saying, right. So in other words, like this, if you want to prevent a conflict, it sounds like he's saying, you should not look to employ an ish chema because he gets mad about his own stuff. So he's certainly going to get mad about things that are not his. V'yigarem madon bein ha'anashim asher lahem hariv. And he will incite quarrel among people who are quarreling or who are in conflict. Kasher yakutz b'tainas echad mehem v'yiktzof alav. When he rejects the claim of one of them and gets mad at him. V'lo yisbol divrei kol echad liyashiv da'atam b'man erach. And he will not tolerate or be patient about the words of any one of them to soothe their minds with a soft reply. The erech apayim yashkid riv, but erech apayim will settle quarrel. Okay, I'm not going to use footnote right now. So it's interesting. So Rבינו Yona is learning this like Moshe Koppel, I think, but not about the same decision-making scenario. I'm just going to write this here. So Rבינו Yona. So I'll tell you the way I understand Rבינו Yona, but you can challenge my understanding here if you want. So the decision-making scenario is when two people are either in conflict or headed towards one, and you want a third party to mediate that quarrel. Okay, don't choose an ish chema, okay, because he gets mad about his own affairs, and will be quick to take sides in this quarrel and get mad about that also. So in other words, I'm associating this with Moshe Koppel because he's saying that I think this is what Moshe Koppel was saying about the ish chema, but Rבינו Yona is applying it to a different decision-making scenario, saying don't trust a guy like that to make peace here. Like an example of this, I know this is not exactly what his job is, but if you've Elon Musk, as we're recording this, is still in charge of the Doge, the Department of Government Efficiency, and I know his task is not necessarily to make peace. It's to cut, redundancy. But if you read his biography, he is someone who takes things very personally and takes sides. And so you throw him into a situation and he's immediately going to just take sides and it's going to create conflict. I mean, I think Trump is the same way, is that Trump is very into people who are loyal to him and who are not, and then against people who are not loyal to him. And so any human interaction that he gets into is going to involve, furthering that division line, like Moshe was saying. So a person like that is not a good peacemaker between other parties, because he's going to make the conflict his, and then that's going to bring his ego and everything into that as well, and just fire everything up. So that's an interesting application. I'm just wondering what makes is there anything in the pasuk that makes Rבינו Yona take that statement? I mean, I guess he's saying that madon means that there's a conflict between people, and then now the ish chema is the third party, that he's going to either increase that madon or quell that madon. But he's saying that that must be how he's looking at it. In other words, the madon implies that there are already two people, and then this guy's either going to elevate it or diminish it. Yeah, okay, let's stop for today, think about it, and then we'll come back Bli Neder tomorrow and look at the other meforshim and see if we could develop it more. The difficulty, I think, here is anger is such a broad topic that it's very easy to just speculate and come up with different explanations, but it's hard to see what is the unique chiddush that this pasuk is giving us. So navigating that line is what we're going to try to do for tomorrow. Okay, thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Yeah.